I'll never forget the way the neighborhood first looked when our moving truck rumbled into Maple Ridge. Quiet streets, trimmed lawns, a couple of kids tossing a football between driveways. The kind of place my wife Elena had always dreamed. And for a moment, sitting there with the engine still humming, I actually believed we'd finally found a corner of the world where life could slow down a little. But that illusion didn't survive even 6 hours, because by that afternoon, the president of the Maple Ridge Homeowners Alliance, a woman named Lorraine Fletcher, had already made it her life's mission to run us out before we'd finished, unpacking half our kitchen boxes. Lorraine was, I don't know how to put it gently, the kind of person who treated a cul-de-sac like her personal kingdom, and every mailbox, flower pot, and blade of grass like subjects she had sworn to protect with her last breath. She marched around in her pressed khaki capris and mirrored, sunglasses like she was patrolling an embassy, clipboard tucked under her arm at all times, ready to enforce her brand of suburban justice. And from the moment she saw us, 2 30-something newcomers she hadn't vetted herself, she practically vibrated with suspicion. By noon, we'd already received 3 printed notices of non-compliance, each more ridiculous than the last. The first one claimed our moving truck violated community aesthetics by introducing industrial visual disruption, which I'm pretty sure was her fancy way of saying she didn't like seeing a truck in a driveway. The second accused us of keeping a dangerous animal on the premises, our 12-pound emotional support cat named Waffles. And the third notice, well, that one claimed Elena had installed an unapproved mailbox finish, even though we hadn't touched the mailbox at all. Still, we tried to laugh it off. New neighborhood, new personalities. Maybe she was just the overly enthusiastic type who needed a hobby. Then at 3:41 p.m., everything changed. There came this heavy, thunderous knocking at our front door, 3 sharp blows that rattled the frosted glass. Through the blur of the pattern, I saw Lorraine's outline, rigid posture, clenched jaw, and 2 HOA officers. Yes, she actually called them that, standing behind her like backup. When I opened the door, she spoke with this booming, rehearsed authority that echoed off every garage door on the block. "You have 48 hours to vacate this property," she declared, "or the Maple Ridge Homeowners Alliance will enforce removal by any means necessary." Now, normally, I'm a pretty patient guy, but something about the way she said, "any means necessary," while glaring at my pregnant wife over my shoulder, flipped a switch in me. I steadied my breath, reached into my back pocket, and pulled out my badge. The gold shield caught the sunlight just right, and I held it where she couldn't miss it. "Ma'am," I said, calm as I could manage, "you just threatened a sworn officer and my family on our own property. That is not going to end the way you think it will." You'd think that moment would have humbled her, but no. Lorraine doubled down, insisting her authority superseded mine inside Maple Ridge. That was the moment I knew we weren't just dealing with neighborhood nonsense. We were dealing with someone who craved power so deeply, she'd convinced herself she was untouchable. The truth is, Elena and I didn't move here on a whim. After nearly a decade working undercover narcotics in Taishan, Phoenix, raids, stakeouts, late nights that all blurred together, I needed peace. Elena had this dream of a simple backyard garden, weekend breakfasts, a place where our kid could someday run around without hearing sirens in the distance. Maple Ridge looked perfect for that. The house was an old 3-bedroom fixer, good bones, ugly wallpaper, creaky floors, the kind of place that begged to become a home. But peace apparently didn't come bundled with the mortgage. Within 24 hours of moving in, we found a neatly folded warning under our windshield for having an unpainted fence board, which confused the hell out of me because the fence had been that color when we bought the place. The next morning, we woke to a citation for modernist patio furniture that clashed with the heritage aesthetic of Maple Ridge. Our furniture was just 2 chairs and a table from Home Depot. Then came the drone. I heard the buzzing before I saw it, hovering right above our grill during our first weekend cookout, making slow, suspicious circles like it was gathering intel for a military operation. When I looked toward Lorraine's house, sure enough, her blinds snapped shut. The next week, a city inspector showed up because someone, gee, wonder who, reported an illegal commercial gym operating out of our garage. The poor guy felt embarrassed. The minute he walked inside and saw nothing but a couple of dumbbells and my old bench press. He closed the case within minutes, but he let slip that the complainant had called 6 separate times demanding action. Still, Elena kept trying to give Lorraine the benefit of the doubt. One afternoon, she baked a plate of her grandmother's cinnamon empanaditas and walked them over as a peace offering. Lorraine cracked the door open barely an inch, stared at the plate like it was toxic, and said flatly, "Foods with foreign spices aren't permitted here. They attract undesirable foot traffic." I saw the look on my wife's face when she came home, hurt mixed with disbelief, and that's when something in me tightened. A man can take a lot, but watching someone talk down to your wife while hiding behind a title they printed at Staples, that hits different. But it wasn't until the cactus incident that I realized Lorraine wasn't just petty. She was dangerous. Elena had put a small 6-inch cactus in a painted pot by the front door, a little thing with a red bloom she loved. That same afternoon, an official HOA memo arrived, declaring the cactus menacing vegetation that posed a clear threat to neighborhood children. If we didn't remove it, we'd face fines of $100 a day. That night, while Elena slept, I stood in the hallway thinking about everything we'd been through in 48 short hours, and an old instinct kicked in, the one that whispers, "Start documenting." In this line of work, evidence isn't just protection, it's survival. So I installed cameras, saved every letter, every voicemail, everything that didn't sit right. I didn't know when I'd need it, but I knew eventually I would. What I didn't expect was just how fast things would spiral. The following Thursday, I walked outside to find an eviction notice taped to our door so aggressively, the tape covered half the paint. It was printed in Comic Sans, and claimed we violated 17 bylaws in less than a week. It was signed, Lorraine Fletcher, President, CEO, and Chief Enforcement Officer of the Maple Ridge Homeowners Alliance. I brought it to my captain mostly for a laugh, but his face changed halfway through reading. He warned me that people like Lorraine, when challenged, don't calm down. They escalate. He was right. Later that week, Lorraine submitted an official county complaint accusing us of being illegal squatters and forging documents claiming she owned our home under some fabricated HOA clause. She even included a photoshopped picture of me supposedly pointing a gun at neighbors, except the gun was very clearly my leaf blower with a fake grip pasted on. By Friday afternoon, she'd assembled what she proudly called the Community Compliance Committee, which was just her, a confused retired man named Harold, and her fiercely loyal friend Jeanette, who once measured grass height during a snowstorm. They rolled up in a golf cart decked out with HOA flags like they were leading a parade, and Lorraine marched to our front steps wearing a rhinestone-encrusted badge that said, Alliance Enforcement Division. Lorraine pounded on our door with a force that didn't match her size, shouting in this sharp, theatrical voice that carried through the entire cul-de-sac. Curtains shifted, patio doors slid open. Neighbors stepped outside pretending to water plants just so they could witness the drama. I took a slow breath, checked that my body cam was running, felt my phone already recording in my pocket, and opened the door as calmly as if she'd come to borrow sugar. She planted her feet, straightened her rhinestone badge, and declared, "By the authority vested in me by the Maple Ridge Homeowners Alliance, I order you to vacate this residence within 48 hours. Refusal will result in removal by any means necessary." Behind her, poor Harold looked like he'd accidentally joined a cult meeting, and Jeanette clutched her clipboard like a medieval shield. I studied their faces for a second, let the silence hang just long enough, then reached into my back pocket and pulled out my badge. I held it at eye level. The sunlight caught it, bright and undeniable. "Ms. Fletcher," I said in the same tone I use at crime scenes and courtrooms, "I'm Officer Ben Reyes with the Oak Valley Police Department. You are currently making terroristic threats, attempting to illegally evict lawful residents, impersonating an official authority, and engaging in harassment of a pregnant woman." I strongly suggest you reconsider your position." The effect was instant. Harold took a full step back, nearly tripping over his own shoes, and Jeanette's clipboard slipped from her hands, papers fluttering across the lawn like a parade gone wrong. But Lorraine, she didn't retreat. Her face tightened, her jaw set, and she snapped, "You have no jurisdiction here. This community operates under HOA sovereignty." I almost choked, trying not to laugh. "Ma'am," I said, "that's not a real thing." She stamped her foot. Actually, stamped it and shouted, "I am the authority here. I don't care what badge you wave around." Then, in a move that shocked even me, she tried to shove past me into the house, muttering something about inspecting for violations. And just like that, she added attempted unlawful entry to her growing list of charges. I stepped forward, blocking her path. "Sheriff's office," I said into my phone, still in full view of my camera. "This is Officer Reyes. I have an escalating situation at my residence. Send a unit for transport." That's when Lorraine finally panicked. Her eyes darted around, her breath quickened, and then, in a perfect storm of denial and delusion, she bolted. Straight toward her golf cart. She climbed in, slammed the pedal, and the cart lurched forward at a dramatic 12 miles per hour. She tried to take a sharp turn onto the sidewalk, the wheels lifted, and the entire cart tipped like a slow-motion action scene that didn't get the budget it needed. Lorraine went tumbling headfirst into her prized azalea hedge. Her rhinestone badge landed on the sidewalk with a sad little clink. By the time the sheriff's deputies arrived, half the neighborhood was already out with their phones, recording every angle like they were documenting a meteor strike. Deputy Shaw helped Lorraine to the curb while she sputtered about persecution and sovereign rights. And I handed Deputy Loring a flash drive with every bit of evidence I had. Videos of the drone, forged documents, threatening emails, the eviction, in Comic Sans, everything. Loring's eyebrows kept climbing as he scrolled. "She said she owns your house," he muttered. "She filed 6 separate emergency reports this month?" He shook his head. "This is extensive." Lorraine tried one last time to salvage her fantasy. "You can't arrest me," she yelled, leaves stuck in her hair like confused decorations. "I'm the Alliance president. I have immunity." Shaw didn't even blink. "Ma'am, turn around and place your hands behind your back." The handcuffs clicked, the neighborhood gasped, and someone 2 houses down whispered, "I knew this was coming." That night, the videos hit social media like wildfire. Someone looped Lorraine shouting, "I am the authority," into a dance. Remix. Memes popped up everywhere. My favorite was her rhinestone badge with the caption, "Authority not found." Another showed Elena's harmless cactus wearing sunglasses, labeled menacing vegetation since 2025. Within 48 hours, local news covered the story. The anchor tried not to laugh while reading the headline, "HOA president arrested following golf cart pursuit." They even aired a close-up of the cactus. Elena nearly cried laughing. But the legal fallout was no joke. The district attorney charged Lorraine with impersonating an official, filing false reports, attempted unlawful entry, harassment, falsifying documents, and misuse of emergency services. At her arraignment, she insisted on representing herself. She told the judge he had no authority within the borders of Maple Ridge, which earned her an immediate contempt charge. And without Lorraine terrorizing them, the HOA board finally held a meeting where residents, older folks, new couples, families, stood one by one and shared stories. She had fined a veteran because his flagpole was half an inch too tall. She had photographed a teenager because she thought his skateboard signaled gang activity. She had reported a couple to child services because their toddlers drew chalk, dirt on the driveway. The vote to remove her was unanimous. The vote to dissolve the entire HOA. All but one vote. Harold abstained because he didn't understand the question. Life in Maple Ridge changed overnight. Someone put a tiny wooden sign beside Elena's cactus that read, "Official Community Guardian." Neighbors left small trinkets beside it. Stones, toy badges, a mini cowboy hat. The air felt lighter. People talked to each other again. Kids played chalk tic-tac-toe on driveways without fear of citations. 3 months later, Lorraine accepted. A plea deal, probation, community service, fines totaling $43,000, and a 10-year ban from holding any administrative or quasi-administrative role in the county. She lost her home to settle lawsuits from families she'd harassed for years. The irony? Her house was bought by a young couple with 3 kids, 2 big, goofy dogs, and a love for loud, colorful lawn decorations. They painted the front door bright teal and placed a 6-foot garden troll named Marvin by the walkway. I swear I heard Lorraine screaming somewhere in the universe. The last time I saw her was in the courtroom when the judge read the final restrictions. Lorraine stood there stiff as a statue, her hands trembling on the table, eyes filled with disbelief. She opened her mouth to object, but no sound came out. Just a faint whisper the court reporter barely caught. But I was the president. The gavel dropped. Her reign ended, and Maple Ridge finally breathed. And now I gotta ask you, after everything you've heard, after every wild twist and ridiculous moment, what would you have done if someone like Lorraine came after your home, your family, your peace? Was she a tyrant who got exactly what she deserved? Or was she just another person who let a little power poison her mind? Drop your thoughts below. I'm really curious how this one hits you.